So, welcome everyone to my presentation, not about Python, unfortunately, but about something that I think it's really important for us to talk about. Oh, now it's better. So anyone knows what A11y means or what it is? Exactly. And do you know how that is called? A11y, what it's called? No? It's a numeronym. So it's an acronym with numbers. We do the same thing with internationalization. I18N. So we use the same idea. So A11y is accessibility. And I want to talk to you about accessibility for a couple of minutes. This will work as I intended. So my name is Sandro Costa. I work at FCCN. And in FCCN, we have the responsibility of having all of our public services accessible. It's not an easy task. It's exactly the opposite. But we are trying. So we take a lot of care with our front ends and back ends, especially in terms of accessibility with our front ends. And this is what I want to talk to you about. But firstly, before we start, let me just give you a disclaimer about what this is. So this is not, to be completely honest, this is not a workshop. This is not a guide to all of your accessibility issues. And especially, this is not a civil engineer's perspective on accessibility, because they get confused a lot of the times. We had a bunch of emails asking us to have lifts on stairs. It's not the same thing as web accessibility. So what this is basically an introspection of what we do with our front ends. It's also a way to like an easy guide to digest, so you can have at least some enlightenment about what you should tackle when you're designing UIs. And also, I hope that you can get some tools that you can use on your daily work to help with turning things accessible. So let's start by talking a bit about SEO and why it is important when we talk about accessibility as well. So SEO, or search engine optimization, as you know, please work. Okay. It all has all to do with page performance, page speed. You have a lot of the core vitals, as Google likes to call them. So everything to do with latest contentful paint, the time to first input. So all of those things are important when we are trying to get or to create something performant. But at the same time, we have to make sure that things like content. One of the things that I got to know about SEO is that the importance of mobile first is up through the roof now when we work with the UIs. So you have to prepare everything for mobile first if you want to get a good indexation on Google. Also, the quality of your contents, if they are not only being generated by ChatGPT, also means a lot. The quality of the references, the bibliography, so everything that you use to generate content should be important for SEO. And one of the things that I want to highlight here about this, especially after all of this that I talked about, the good HTTP semantics, everything that you can relate to SEO, is that there's a thing that you probably have used before called page speed. And one of the items there, curiously, is accessibility. So one of the things that Google considers when we talk about SEO is accessibility. And this is a major factor and a major impact on your pages if they are not accessible. So why should we talk about accessibility? Well, I think this is a pretty big thing, why we should talk about accessibility, especially if you live in Europe. We can expect like our GDPR, sorry, I was saying the Portuguese way. Like GDPR, we can expect the enforcement of web accessibility all over our applications and websites. Websites should be accessible, platforms should be accessible. And there's no better way for us to make accessibility viable than somebody telling us that we might get fined for having something that isn't accessible. So this is in act. It went into act on the 28th of June, and it's now a reality throughout Europe that you have to create services that are accessible, or you might face some pain in your life, or more pain, let's put it that way. So in Portuguese side, we have an entity called AMA, which is responsible for all the accessibility things. And if you want your site audited, you can use AMA to do so. And they also concede you 3 types of seals. They have the bronze, the silver, and the gold seal for accessibility. The better the seal, the better your site is in terms of accessibility. So you can count on them at least to know if what you have is accessible, and if you want it certified, that might be a major impact even to your business. So let's define disability, and this is a really fun thing for me to talk to you. I did this presentation a couple of times, and it's really fun for you to understand what disability is. So disability is basically, people usually talk, instead of talking in the negative way, we talk on the diversity of abilities. They can be auditory, of speech, they can be related to your eyesight, they can be related to your cognitive aspect of, and I'm always touching the cable, which is great. They can be on the cognitive side. So these are types of abilities we work with when we work with disability, and you have to prepare for these. But one of the funny things is that we never think, if we are aptly abled, we never think about what the disability is. And what it is fun is that you can have temporary disabilities. So you can break an arm, you can have some eyesight problem, and us creating something that is accessible for people with disabilities, with major disabilities, and permanent ones, is also great for us that can eventually have temporary disabilities. That makes it much harder for us to navigate sites or to use platforms. So digital accessibility has 4 basic principles that you should use for all of your applications or all of your websites. Sites should be perceivable. Information in user interface components must be presentable. Operable, so you should be able to operate with the website without any issues. Understandable, all the information there, including navigation, should be easy to understand. And robust. Everything that you have there, including content, should be robust enough that it can be used or crawled through. Okay? This is the basic 4 principles of web accessibility that we should respond to when we are implementing it. So you then have levels of compliance. So levels of compliance are basically, we can describe them as essential is basically you have everything is readable, so you don't have micro text on your website. Color contrast is good enough for me to understand if I have some type of visual impairments that it doesn't allow me to understand what's there. Images are not minuscule or giant, so these basic things about accessibility are the essentials. So they are more on the content side, even though they are also on the UI side. The ideal, which is what we usually strive for, is navigation. You're able to navigate the site with your keys. You're able to open or close anything. You are informed every single time something new pops up on your screen. And then you have specialized, which is much more on you have like a fancy interface. And that fancy interface that you created with your React script has to be able to be correctly communicated to the impaired user. And the user should be able to understand what's there and to navigate it. These levels of compliance are usually tested against. This is a picture or an image of the AMA platform, which is called Access Monitor. What it does is it crawls through your page and basically checks for syntax errors, color contrasts and things that are easily perceivable from an automatic test. So that's basically the types of results that you get. Emma's platform grades your site from 1 to 10, where 10 is fully accessible, and you can expect anything below 9 to be meh. So it's basically you have 9 and 10, and then after everything below that, it's not ideal. So Emma's website access monitor goes against or tests against the UCAG rules, so the web content accessibility guidelines. It's a set of rules. It's now on the version 2.2. You can find them on the web, and it's a set of rules that all have all the levels that you expect, and then describe what is to be expected. One of the issues that I have when I'm introducing accessibility to someone that has never tackled these issues when they are trying to front ends is that sometimes this information is not comprehensible enough, which is funny because it goes against the accessibility principles of being easily to understand. But it's really technical. Sometimes it isn't completely correct. Not correct, I wouldn't say incorrect, but it's not clear what it's trying to achieve or to pass on through you. So it's a bit difficult to interpret. But basically, it goes through, and now in 2.2, it goes through everything, images, text, headings, up to mobile interfaces and interaction. So you can expect to have everything there. So let me go for the fun part, because this is much better now. It's going to give you much more context of what I'm talking about. So let's talk about text. And text is one of the things that we, as developers, sometimes commit the biggest sins, because we think it's fine, it's done, it's fine. Especially headings. We don't treat headings with the respect that we should treat headings. Sometimes I see incredible things like, oh, H3 was much better here than H4, so I'm going to put an H3 here. So it's like H1, H3. One of the things that you have to remember, or that I expect you to remember in the future, is that blind people usually navigate via an index of headings on your website. So they should be formatted in the correct order, or else it's basically impossible to navigate. Your website should always have an H1. And you might tell me, oh, it's the landing page, I don't have an H1. You should have an H1. You can put that H1, you can hide that H1 in some way from your regular users, but you should have that H1 to give context to your blind users that where they are and what they are seeing is exactly what they expect. Do not skip heading levels. I know this is fun. I know this is great. Sometimes it looks much better, but do not skip H levels. If you have an H1, you should have an H2 afterwards, and then an H3. And then you can return back to H2, but do not skip. Do not go H1, H5, H3, H2. It's not compliant, and it will give you a lot of problems with accessibility. It basically renders your site unusable in some way. Only one H1 should exist, so you should only have one title per page. This is a bit harder sometimes, but you can achieve it by creating a good content structure for your website. And also you should create H1, like I said, in logical levels. So this is the example that you should follow. And always remember that they have ways when they are using their screen readers to index all the H levels. And they don't consume information as we do. So they need information to be grouped as much as possible and to be as clear as possible. So use it. Also, sometimes people ask me, oh, yeah, but if I want to differentiate it in terms of visual style, H3 is much better here than H2. That's a visual style issue. You should have styles that makes it able for you to use an H2 with the same style of an H3. So that's on your side. That's on the side of the designers. You have to guarantee that the aspect stays the same, but it conforms to the correct syntax. Links. The links is also a fun thing for us, especially for people that create content. It's also a great thing. links links should always be recognized as links. So no fancy things, no divs with click actions on it. If it's a link, it should be a link. Links should be clear and descriptive. You should be clear. One of the things that I find the most when I'm auditing sites is something I call the click this itis. So it's click this everywhere. If you want to know more, click this. If you want to know any, click this. Just imagine that you're a blind user and you are trying to index all the links in the site. Just imagine what this will give you. It's 15,000 click this links, and you won't know where you are, what you are seeing. So be descriptive. If the link should open a document, click to open the document, or click to open name of the document. Be descriptive about your links. You have multiple ways to add additional information if you need to, but don't commit the cardinal sin of using the no more or the click this everywhere because it's fun or because it's easy. We can do a bit better in this front. Usually when people ask me about, well, if I'm implementing a component, how should I tackle this? If I have a button no more or get more information about this, you have ways, you have titles, you have area labeled bys that you can use to give the blind user more information without disrupting the visual interface. So use it. It's much better than going for click areas. Also, identify links that open in new tabs in Windows. This we usually do a lot with our blanks and our tags that we need to use, but you should be able to identify links that open in new tabs because they don't see, so they need to know there's a new tab where the thing opened. Now, for semantics. Semantics is one of my favorite subjects in this cable doesn't work, but semantics is one of my favorite subjects in accessibility because we usually have an issue with semantics and web development. If we need to develop something rapidly, we will go for the shortest route, and sometimes the shortest route gives us a lot of trouble. So one of the things that I always say is that lang should always be set up. It's a thing that you have to guarantee because screen readers go read the lang of the site and adapt to the lang of the site. If the site is in English, it will be read in English. If you have a screen reader reading Portuguese or with the Portuguese pronunciation, an English website, it's catastrophe, as you will probably would have guessed. So you should always have the lang attributes set up correctly. Zoom viewport should not be disabled. Sometimes we have the idea of, oh, let's disable this or that because it's better for our UI kit or whatever. Don't disable viewports because you have some people that are not blind but they are visually impaired that sometimes they push their sites up to 300%. For you, it's probably insane. For them, it's the only way they can read anything. So don't disable the thing. Use landmarks, and we will talk a bit more about this landmark. And take advantage of HTML defaults. So let me expand. This is what we usually do. We love divs everywhere. If we are creating something, it's probably a block, it's probably a div. Let's put divs everywhere. It's easy because it's reachable. This causes an issue, usually for accessibility. It works, so I'm not telling you it doesn't work, it works, but it's much better for you to use good semantics. It's a button, go for a button. It's a footer, go for a footer. It's a nav, go for a nav. There's a multitude of good accessibility tags or good HTML tags that you can use that are much more understandable for the blind user than using just divs everywhere. Okay, and you also have area roles. We will talk about more about area roles in the coming slides, but you'll also have a way to add complementary information to your HTML elements. Let's jump to pictures and images. So images should always have an alt text if they describe something that the user should be seeing. And this doesn't mean that, I can put everything blank because it's easier. Yes, you can, but I find this multiple times where somebody put something on my website saying, oh, this is the graph that represents X or Y, and there's no graph. So there's no description, there's no anything. It's just an image. I can see the graph, nobody else can. So this is an issue. Label your images, label your contents. If there's an image that should have some text behind it, label it. Be explicit what images are and aren't decorative. You can have a background, you can have something that you want to have in your website. If it's a decorative image, put the alt blank, but put the alt in. Never leave the alt without it being associated to an image. And also, you can provide complex descriptions to an image by using the area labels or the area described by. So you have multiple ways to describe these images. Let me give you an example. One of the things that I always say is that context matters. And when we are describing images, like always, like in everything in life, we tend to be lazy. It's much easier, right? So let me give you a quick example. If I say that this is a mother holding a newborn child, I would be correct. But this is also her mother holding a newborn child. So context matters. If there's a situation, if there's something, it's not a perfect formula. So I cannot give you a perfect formula for you to describe your image because it doesn't exist. But you should give context of where the image is, what's related to. This should be present. If you're developing a system, if there's a way for you to enforce having an alt or at least declaring that that image is decorative, you should have it in your system. This should be done. SVGs and infographics is exactly what I was talking about. If you have an SVG with a graph explaining something, you have tags that you can use to describe it. So you have titles. You can have divs inside the SVG that are labeled by area described by that can be read by screen readers. So you should use these functions and functionalities to better describe your images. Skip to content. This is something that we tend to be a bit better at, but usually we tend to skip it as much as it skips content. Your first link on any of your websites should be a skip to content. And the idea of the skip to content is to directly skip all the navigation and go towards the main content of the site. These allows them to not having to hear every single link on your navigation bar, because it's exactly what happens. Every time they enter a page, the screen reader will read every single link on the top of the page. So you can skip this and go directly to content. This should be your primary link, your first link on your web page. Per experience, we have a bunch of issues with some plugins that we usually install that overwrites this, but you should guarantee that this is your first link. And what this does is, when you press tab, a button will appear on top of your page and allow you to press enter and skip immediately to your content. This is not much more than an anchor tag on your website, but it works, and it works really well. Element visibility. This is something that I learned not that far ago, which is a shame to say, but it's the truth. One of the perceptions that I had is that element visibility would, an element, if it was visibility, if it was changed by CSS, would always be visible to somebody that is blind or to a screen reader. This is not correct. If an element is hidden in the CSS, it will be hidden for that user as well. So usually what we do, like you can see here, I change positions, I change click paths. So basically, that button will not be hidden. It will be stuck somewhere out of your visibility area. And when you press tab, you will reset the value. You shouldn't be using, if that element should be visible or should be navigatable and just hidden because it's fun or because you want to, then you should use anything but visibility hidden or display none, because it will not be shown to the disabled user as well. Screen reader text. I usually, in all of my systems, create one of these classes. And this class is basically what I described to you. If I want text to be accessible to my screen reader users, but not to my regular users, I will create one of these classes, and every time I need to use it, I use it in my contents. This is great for you to add additional context for your screen reader users, and you can use it wherever you want. And it's just the best, because only the ones that have to view it will view it. Native controls. I always give this example because I really like this example. Let's imagine that we want to create a button. I want to create a button. It's my Python or React component, and I want to create a button. Okay, let's go. I have a div class button, okay? So let's add a role of button because I need this to be a button. I need it to be perceived as a button. Okay, nice. So it's not that well. I need tab index to be 0, so it can be tabbed. It's a div. It's not tabbable. So I need tab index to be 0 to be tabbable. Nice. I'm getting there. Yeah, but isn't this easier? It's just for me to try to poke you into, if there's a native control that you can use it, use it. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't create custom controls that are really hard to navigate or give you a lot of issues. It's just easier to go for native controls. Everything is customizable. Everything works out of the box. It's one of the things that you should always do when you're working with accessibility. Focus. Never disable focus. I know it's not that good looking, but you should never disable focus. Focus is one of the things that people that navigate with a pointer, we usually call it a pointer. So somebody that is disabled and has some sort of a pen that we call a pointer that they put in their mouth and they navigate through the sites, they need to see tab focus. So you should never disable the visual representation of tab focus. You can improve it in terms of styling, but you should never do this. Outline none is not a good pattern. Never disable it. Keyboard shortcuts. I really like this one because I started doing it a couple of years ago. You can add keyboard shortcuts, as you've probably seen in a couple of applications, to your website. Should you? It depends on your website. If there's a note-taking app, a to-do app, you can and you should, because it's easier and it's great. And screen readers can read these keys and and give these keys back to the user, so they can use the shortcuts as well. There's a couple of activation combinations that you can use, but it's once you're done with the access key, it's done. One of the things that you have to guarantee is that keyboard shortcut doesn't conflict with your operating system or with your browser. But apart from that, it's a great way for you to navigate to the menu, open something, close something. It's great, and it's a great helpful thing for the accessibility as well. Live applications. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. If I miss something, you can talk to me anywhere. So live applications, we usually use the idea of area, so accessible rich internet applications. Area is a way for you to give more context to your applications and to your components. Okay. Let's imagine that we have an application that loads new posts every time you scroll. You can use, and you should use, area live to tell your user that there's new content on that element. So you have three types of, I put here the three types of politeness. Politeness basically means that if there's new content, your screen reader will probably shout at you that there's new content on the page. So you have three levels of politeness. As you can see, polite is completely different from assertive. Probably will shout at you more if you put it as assertive than with polite. But it's a way for you to inform your user that there are changes on your UI and your information, and there's new information loaded on X or Y element. There's also a new thing that is becoming really important in accessibility, which is modals. We really like our modals. I think we all agree. And there's two things that I would like to highlight. You can have modals like I showed you with some divs and some roles. So there's a role dialog, which is an area role that you can use to describe some element as a dialog, but you now have a dialog HTML tag that you can use. I don't know, not sure if it's completely compatible. It might not be with some browsers, but it's available and it's native. So dialogues, it's exactly the same thing. There's a bunch of rules that you should know about dialogues. If a dialog is open, the focus should jump into the dialog. So the tab focus should jump into the dialog. You should have a way to close the dialog without me navigating the mouse outside of the dialog area. So there's a bunch of things that you should know about dialog. But it's basically, you should be careful when using dialogs, and you should be clear with the way dialogs navigate. And now, before I end the area topic, let's just explain the first rule of area is that you don't talk about area. If there's an HTML native element that does exactly the same thing, don't go for div rolling while in navigation. There's a nav. So you shouldn't use area if you don't need to. Area should only be used when you really need to give extra information to your users. So that's basically it. So for us programmers, the most fun part of this, or the least one, you choose. It's on your side. So testing. There's a couple of tests that you can do, and there's two basic types of tests when we talk about accessibility: automatic and manual testing. Can I do one without doing the other? No. At least if you want your site to be fully compliant, you shouldn't. So automatic testing you can do via Lighthouse. Lighthouse can assess your site on the macro level, but it can give you some hints on what's not working. You also have one that I use a lot, which is called DQX. It's a plugin that you can install on your Chrome, and there's also a way to add an NPM package, and every time you can have a GitHub action that runs this every time you do a deploy, just to guarantee that you didn't break anything. This is a way, at least, for us to try and guarantee that no major issues have happened when I redid some UI elements. You also have dev accessibility tools, and you will probably say, "Oh, I never saw that." Yes, you probably didn't ever saw this because it's like in a faraway place on your Chrome DevTools bar, but you have a way to see the accessibility tree, so you can indeed identify what's going to be read by the screen reader, if everything is on its place, if everything is correct, if the element has enough context for your screen reader. So you should use this when you're not sure if it represents what you want. Manual testing. I usually you have JAWS and you have NVDA. There's a couple of screen readers that you can use to do manual testing. You should do manual testing because sometimes your automations will tell you that everything is fine and it's fantastic and you have 10 out of 10, but it's not. Some things are not correctly formulated, or the menu is there and everything syntactically looks great, but when I try to view the site, it doesn't tell me what I need to know. So manual testing is basically install NVDA on your PCs, open it, be bedazzled with the quantity of information it throws at you every single second, so you can understand as well how blind users use it. It reads like 4 or 5 times your speed, so it's incredibly fast and it's incredibly confusing. But it's a way for you to understand that everything is in the proper place, and you should do it at least once or twice every single time you do a major changes to your UI. It's also free. NVDA, at least it's free. It's open source. And then you have some paid applications like Rocket Validator. Rocket Validator basically crawls your pages and creates a report on your accessibility issues. So I don't know what the price is. I also don't want to pay it, but if you want to, it's available and you can use it. After all of this, there's a question. I think that all of us probably will talk a bit more about this in the coming talks, which is, and what about AI? AI is a topic. Will AI solve everything, and AI agents will be able to correct all our accessibility issues? Anybody has any ideas or no AI fans? No. This is not good. So this is basically my take, and you should take it with a pinch of salt as well, which is you can and you should, if you have a cursor rules, if you have any indications that you can give your agents, if you use agents, you should always ask them to create as much as accessible as possible of an interface when you are generating code. It should follow the UCAG principles of accessibility, just to guarantee that the code you're running or the code that you're generating is accessible enough. If you are starting a new application, be mindful of these things, because I'm talking of experience when I say this, that it's much harder for you to change things when it's done than it is when you're trying to start it. So be mindful of these things. And last but not least, if you want to know more, I'll be next to these. So outside if you want to talk more about this. Thank you so much.